Hello, good evening, everyone. Today is April 14th. Welcome to our Dharma with streaming again. We will be continue to talk about the steps in learning the Dharma. For the past 2 weeks, we already talked about the steps or the session of steps that before we learn the sutra, what should we prepare first? So in the first class of the steps in learning the Dharma, we talk about the three modes of attaining moral wisdom. They are the learning, which is reading or listening or learning the instruction, the thinking, reflections in the teachings, and practice. These are the three things that we learn in our first class of the steps in learning the Dharma. And the next class about the steps in learning the Dharma, we talk about the faith, we talk about understanding in what we are learning, we talk about applying what we learn in our daily life, and also we talk about after we applied, what do we realize? As I mentioned many times, is that when we learn the Dharma, what should we do next? It is very important that we have to use it. If we don't use it, then what is the point of spending the time to learn the Dharma? So when we learn the Dharma, when you attend the class, the first thing you have to make a decision is that do you want to use it in your daily life and help you in your daily life to have a better life? So this is something we have to remind ourselves all the time. So today, we are going to talk about the class 3 on steps in learning the Dharma, which is the last one. So today, we are going to talk about the discipline, meditation, and wisdom. These three things are very important because these three things will lead us to the path of liberation and enlightenment. So let's go into it one by one. Discipline. In Buddhism, we call it as a precepts. Learning and upholding the discipline by guiding one's unwholesome actions arise from body, speech, and mind. Many people regard discipline or precepts as something that ties us up, something that stops us from freedom. And that's why a lot of people doesn't like to have discipline. They don't like to talk about precepts. They don't like to have any guidelines of rules. Because to them is that if there's a guideline, if there's a discipline requirement, then this is something that they don't feel at ease. However, just think about this. If there's no rule, regulation, and discipline guideline, what do you think that this world will be? If there's no traffic light, what will the road look like? If there's no law in the society, what do you think that this society will look like? Just imagine about that. In our daily life, when we step out from our door and go out into the roads, whether we drive or we walk, we have to follow the rules of the traffic light. Of course, you can say that I can walk without caring about the traffic light, but you have to bear the consequences. If something accident happened, you can't blame anyone. So the same thing as discipline. You can ignore the discipline, but you have to remember that you will be the one that have to bear the consequences. And let me ask all of you a question. How many of you think that you can fully self-discipline without the traffic light, without the law and regulation, and without anybody looking at you? Can you self-discipline that well? It's just, for example, there's a traffic light there. You are driving. You're supposed to stop, but you realize that nobody is walking. How many of you really stop there? Or you will say that, well, nobody's looking at, there's no policeman, there's nobody walking. Why do I need to stop? I just drive over. But imagine If suddenly somebody walk past or another car drive through, you're supposed to stop, they're supposed to drive. But they can't see you, you can't see them. Accidents happen. Who bear the consequences? Again, if there's no guideline in the law, somebody can kill anyone without to bear any consequences because there's no law. Somebody can take away things from you. You can't sue this person because there's no law. So in this society, we might not be able to be that self-disciplined. Then why don't we get a guideline to help us to lead a safer life? And this guideline is not just to secure you. It also secure your family members. It's also secure this society. So we don't like to have precepts. We don't like to have guidelines. We don't like to have law. But you just think about the consequences. Of course, I always say that we are the one that make the decision. And remember, we are the one that also bear the consequences. So, what are the disciplines the Buddha is talking about? I'm going to share with you the two basic types of discipline that taught by the Buddha. But before that, I would like to remind all of you that the Buddha never set any precepts without that things happened. The Buddha always set the precepts when somebody offends something and people start to complain to the Buddha. Then the Buddha start to create the precepts. So the Buddha doesn't like to have precepts because we are supposed to self-discipline, but unfortunately, we are too weak. We get easily attracted by a lot of things and we can't control ourselves. So we need something to guide us in our life, to help us to discipline our life. So one of the basic teachings from the Buddha on how to discipline ourselves is to avoid doing evil things, to cultivate good habit, and to cleanse our own mind. This is the teachings of all Buddhas. So let me ask you a question again. How many of us are able to have completely no evil thoughts? Completely. No evil thoughts, no evil action in our life. Or how about we shorten it? How many of us are able to have completely no evil thoughts or action in 1 month or 1 week? Can we do that? And how many of us can claim that we always uphold a good mind and action? Always. We always think of good things. We always do good things. Never have bad thoughts or bad action before. How many of us can do that? All are from our own self. Means that we are the one that created evil or goodness. And also to have a disturbed mind or a pure mind. But can we ourselves able to control ourselves, to manage ourselves without any guidelines? Can you be completely aware that what you are thinking and know that what you are doing? So if you have the confidence, like what the Buddha, he has, that I know exactly what I'm thinking, I know what I'm doing, and I'm aware of the consequences in what I'm thinking and doing, then of course you do not need any precepts or rules or guideline. But if you can't, then perhaps you have to consider of getting something or someone to help you, to prevent you from doing something that might hurt yourself or other people. And the next type of discipline that taught by the Buddha are no killing, no stealing, no sexual misconduct, no lying, no intoxicant. Of course, not all of us will admit to these 5 unwholesome actions. But in a way, most of us will admit to 1 or 2 or 3 of this action that will cause harm to ourselves and other people. So, can you say that you never killed anything before, unintentionally or even intentionally? It's just like if there's a spider in your house. Perhaps the first action you have is to step on it. And also, there are so many germs around us. We might not know that we are killing them. Again, you might say that I never steal things from people. But actually, when we take away something from that person without notifying that person, basically, this is an action of stealing. You might say that I will return to this person. But when you never notify this person and take away, even for 5 minutes, to this person is that my things get stealed away. So, sexual misconduct. Some people might like to have a lot of relationship with different people. And this relationship is not just friendship. Some relationship might cause harm to others, which is no good. No lying. Just think about it. Every day, every week, every month. Are you sure that everything you say does not have any lies? You might say that, Venerable, I am a marketing person. Sometimes I have to say something, my product is not so good, but I have to sell it. So I have to say more things to promote it. Is that considered a lie? It depends on your intention. If this thing is a good thing and you add more description to it without providing a false information, that's not completely lying. But if you're providing a false, untrue information about this product and trying to sell it, then in a way, this is lying. And no intoxicant. Intoxicant means that you take any of the drugs or any things that make your mind not focus, unable to be mindful, such as drugs, such as alcohol, such as cigarette, so anything that make you unable to focus and might cause you to do other actions that harm other people and yourself, then this is something that you have to avoid doing this. So when we say no killing, no stealing, no sexual misconduct, no lying, and no intoxicant, basically is something that reminds us at that point of time whether we want to do it or not. If we don't have this guideline, basically you can just do it. But if you have a guideline in yourself, it's just like something that protects you. Before you do anything, you say that, oh, I better not do this. Because if I do it, then I have to bear certain consequences. And you make a decision whether you want to do it or not. So discipline or guideline is to help us to remind ourselves to stop or continue doing certain things. Everything has the consequences, which in Buddhism, we all call it as cause and effect. There's always a reason to have this thing happen. When we have the discipline and guideline, it will help us to stop and think about it. Then we make a decision on what we want to do. So this guideline or precepts actually is very important and the most important requirement before we start the path of practice. So the next steps is meditation, focus in mind. Nowadays, many people talk about mindfulness and meditation. People go to the meditation center to sit there and calm their mind, calm their body. But what is the purpose of calming your mind, calming your body? What is the purpose? When you sit in the meditation hall, you feel the quiet, peaceful feeling. But when you leave the meditation hall, when you go back to your home and go back to work, you face the same challenge you have. So what is the peace and quiet feeling? It's just in the meditation hall. Why can't you bring this feeling to your daily life? So again, my question is that, what is the purpose of doing or practice meditation and mindfulness? What is the objective of doing so? In Buddhism, meditation is to train us how to focus our mind in anywhere, anytime, and any situation. It's not just sitting. It's not just sitting there and then calm ourselves. You can do this focusing on mind in anywhere, even in your workplace, in your house, facing your family members, in your workplace, facing with your colleague, your boss, your staff. Anytime. You don't need to be just at this point of time in the night time, I do meditation. You can do meditation anytime and any situation, even when you are facing challenge. So let me ask you a question. How many times can you have at least 60, 70, 90% in focus when I'm talking now? Which means that from the beginning to now, I've been talking and talking. How many of you are able to tell yourself that when I'm listening to the Venerable, I have 90% of focus? How many things can you remember when we end this class? How many things can you remember? For just this, about 45 to 50 minutes, how many things can you remember? How many things can you remember end of the day that you had been doing for the whole day? When somebody says something to us, how much can you remember what this person says? We have been receiving a lot of information now, every day, because of the COVID-19. A lot of the information. There are information that really make us worry, but there are also information that make us strong when we see people trying to do things to help the people around them, donating masks, doing volunteer, staying at home, keep a social distance. People are doing good things, but at the same time, there are also people doing some unwholesome thing. Ask yourself, how many things can you remember in that day from the news? Again, can we control our anger, frustration, unhappiness, sadness, etc.? When we face with any things that happen around us, can you immediately observe that anger arises, frustration arises, unhappiness arises, sadness arises? Can you see it? If you can see it, can you control it? How many of us can control our emotional reaction immediately when it arises? Can we? Can you see yourself that clearly? You are so clear with your body, speech, and most important, mind. Can you? Can you focus on your mind every minute, every second? Completely aware of anything that happened around you. Can you? So, mindfulness practice, meditation practice, basically is to train us to focus our mind, observe ourselves, the condition, and make a choice in our actions. And this is a very difficult part. Upholding the precepts is much easier than focusing our mind. The reason is very simple. Our mind is filled with a lot of thinking, self-perception, self-judgment. We are so busy every day. We receive all kinds of information. And from this information, we start to filter out things, we analyze things, we make judgment every day. So it's so difficult for us to really focus in ourselves. Our mind are filled with a lot of external things that happens around us. It makes us difficult to focus. And that's the reason why, if we want to really able to focus our mind or be mindful, always start with sitting meditation. But you will say that, Venerable, I thought you would say that sitting meditation is not the complete ultimate ways of doing meditation. Yes, it's not complete ultimate, but it's the most basic steps before we start to learn how to focus. If we can't even sit down and focus our mind, then how can we focus our mind when we are walking, when we are talking, when we are doing things, when we are observing the surrounding? So it's just like in these few months, we are facing the challenge of coronavirus. A lot of people get stressed out. In the CNN news, they already have a session whereby they introduce the health and wellness, advising us how to reduce our stress in this period of time. They advise us that there's so many news around us. Not all news are good news. So try not to see or read or listen to so many information. You might get stressed out by all this information. They advise us to think in a positive way by thinking of how can we help the people. They advise us to do something positive in this period of time. Maybe learn something, such as cooking, art and craft, or learning something online, rather than keep worry about what will happen. Even if we worry, we are afraid, can you change anything at this point of time? Any external factors, can you tell coronavirus to stop? You can't. In that case, what's the point of worry? If we are already well prepared to face this coronavirus by following the guidelines. Stay at home, wear a mask, keep a social distance, wash your hand, don't touch your nose, your eyes, your face. We follow the guideline. We did what we need to do. What can you do more? If you keep on giving stress to yourself, anything that helps us, no, nothing will help us. It will make us worse. We're already facing this challenge situation, but you are putting more stress in yourself. And that's why we are not mindful. We are being a slave of the external factors. Physically, we already have to face this challenge from this situation. But our mind also gets defeated by this situation. So the next thing is that about wisdom. The wisdom to resolve ignorance. This wisdom here is not about knowledge or degree that what we have, but it's how we manage our life and choose what life to live that we want. Happiness or miserable. Peace or disturbed life. We have a lot of knowledge through our education. You might be a doctor, you might be an accountant, you might be an engineer. You get all sort of good trainings to find a job, to make a living. But every day, every minute, every second, every hour, we are facing with all kinds of challenge that what we learn in our specialized area might not be able to help us in our own life. So what we talk about, the wisdom here, is to help us how we manage our life when we face with all kinds of things happen to us. This wisdom will lead us to the path of liberation. What do we mean by liberation? Liberation means that even when we are facing the challenge, our mind are still healthy. We are not disturbed by things happen around us. We are not worried by things that make us uncomfortable. And how do we make ourselves able to reach to this situation or this mindful? Is that this wisdom is how to help us to resolve our unhappiness, stress, uncomfortable feeling in our life. This wisdom is to see the truth of life and the truth of this phenomenal world. From seeing the truth, understanding the truth, accept the truth, then with this wisdom, we choose what to do. It's just like now we are facing this virus. As according to the truth of our life, birth, sickness, old age, and death is part of our life. So this virus is a kind of sickness. Even you don't have this virus, there are also other viruses. And also, there are also a lot of sickness can cause a lot of people to pass away, such as cancer. So when we see through this truth and we understand that this truth is part of this phenomenal world of our life, then we have to convince ourselves that whether we like it or not, we have to accept it. You can choose to against it and curse it and get angry. Whether you're angry or curse or frustration or anything, you can't do anything to stop this virus. Since you can't stop this virus, this situation, what should you do next? Purify our mind. Physically, we are facing this challenge. Do you want your mind to be defeated by this challenge as well? If you want your mind to be defeated by this challenge, then your body, speech, and mind are fully defeated. Your body, speech, and mind already have this sickness. You won't be a happy person. Even you might not have this virus on your body, you're not a happy person. It's because you're worried. The sickness of fear, worry, anxiety, these are all the sickness. And this sickness you put into yourself. Then how do you want to release it out? This is a very important question. How do you want to liberate yourself out from this situation mentally? And you make a choice in your life. So when we first see the truth of old age, sickness, and death, know that this is the reality. We see it, we understand it, we accept it. Then we make a decision to cherish our life or to waste our life. To cherish the time we have right now to do something meaningful, or to waste our time doing nothing and complaining and complaining. And also, do we want to live a secure, comfortable life, or live in the life of insecure and fear? As I mentioned earlier, if you choose to live in an insecure and fear life, the coronavirus will be still there. If you choose to have a comfortable and secure life, the coronavirus will still be there. The coronavirus will not disappear at this point of time in what life you choose. But the difference is that every day, how is your feeling? Fear, insecure, or secure, peace, comfortable feeling? Again, you choose it yourself. Nobody can force you. There are news that people go on the street to strike and took the gun with them. Why they strike? They're against the stay-at-home guidelines. I don't know whether they know about what happened in New York. The virus spread widely in New York City. But there are people in America against this. Stay at home, keep a social distance. They even go on to have protests in a group. So when we say that human beings, when they have ignorance, they don't see things that happen around them. They don't see the big picture. When this term pandemic appear, means that it's widespread type of virus. Unfortunately, there are a lot of people can't see a lot of things. They don't see the truth. They only see that at this point of time, the summer is coming. They can't go out for fishing. They can't go out to happy. They can't go out for dinner, for gathering. They can't go out to the sea and do swimming. They only look at this point of time, I can't do this thing. That's why they are not happy. And if the virus spread widely in these places, who bear the consequences? Will they blame the governor? I don't know. So it is very important for us to understand that in our life, there's always cause and effect. Everything we do, there's a consequences. And we should call it the karma. And sometimes some people create something will cause harm to other people. And these persons will have to bear the karma. So in this session, we already finished the three classes of steps in learning the Dharma. And I would like to repeat these steps because these steps are the pillar in our path of learning the Dharma. It is the pillar for us. When we walk on this path, when we feel weak, we feel tired and decided not to continue the path, then we have to come back to these steps. And when we come back to these steps, again, ask yourself, why do you choose to start this journey? So let me repeat again about the classes on steps in learning the Dharma. The first class, we talked about the three modes of attaining moral wisdom. Learning from reading, listening, and receiving instruction. Thinking. After learning, we have to think or reflect on what we learn. Are we thinking in a right thoughts and right view? Are we receiving the teachings in a positive attitude? Then after we think about it, we need to use it in our life. We need to do it. Do it, apply it in your daily life, experience it, and then tell yourself, is this something that I want? Something that can benefit me in my life. Next class, we talk about faith. What is faith? What do you believe in? When you believe in the teachings from the Buddha, do you really have faith in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha? And most important, do you have faith in yourself with what you choose to be the guideline of your life? After the faith, we talk about understanding. Understanding the teachings. Understanding what the Buddha wants to share with us and help us in our daily life. But don't just stop in understanding. When we understand it, use it in our daily life. Prove it that whether these things is suitable for you, whether Buddha is telling the truth. So apply it, use it in your life. And when you use it in your life, it's the time that you realize that whether this is really what you want, and also achieve the objective of helping you to live a better life. When you are able to see this, then the next thing is that help other people to see what you see, and then they will walk on the path of liberation from suffering. So this is the second class. And for today's class, we talk about the steps are discipline. Don't think that discipline is something that ties us up, something that stops us from freedom. Discipline or precepts is just like an armor. It protects us. We might feel heavy, but when you have this, no matter what things that shoot to you, the armor will protect you. And you will feel that you have something that protects yourself. Whatever you do, you know that I need to think twice. And you know that why I need to think twice? Because there's always a consequences, a cause and effect. So what do I want to have these consequences? What consequences do I want to have? Again, you choose your path. You choose your consequences. And next, mindfulness. We talk about focusing our mind. Before we talk about focusing our mind, ask ourselves, can we control our mind? Can we know exactly what we are doing? Can I manage myself? If I don't follow the guideline, the precepts, can I manage myself? Can I really see myself, my action, my mind that clearly in order for myself to make decision in what I need to supposed to do? How many things can you remember? If you can't even remember things, how can you focus your mind? So that's the reason why when we practice the Dharma, we have to be able to focus our mind. But we have difficulties in focus our mind. So that's why when we learn the Dharma, we have to at the same time do meditation. Be aware, be aware. And the last one is about wisdom. This wisdom is not knowledge. This wisdom is able to help us to resolve our unhappiness, stress, uncomfortable feeling, or suffering. This wisdom can lead us to make a decision in our life. How do we make a decision in our life? See through the truth, understand the truth, and accept the truth. If we can't see through, we don't understand, and we don't accept it, you will be only bringing suffering to yourself. But again, this is your own choice. So I hope that through these 3 classes, I already share with you the steps in learning the Dharma. I have a lot of people coming to me is that, Venerable, where should I start? What sutra should I read? I always tell you folks, don't start with sutra first. Don't start with the teaching. Start with asking yourself, why I come into the temple? What am I looking for? What should I prepare before I start my class? It's just like, for example, small kids, they are going to the first day of their class. Of course, the teacher already planned the curriculum, but the students have to prepare what? Pencil, pen, rubber, ruler, bag, paper. And of course, they need to bring their lunchbox too. So these are the equipment that you need to have before you start the journey of learning or knowing the Dharma. If you don't have all this and jump into learning the Dharma, you will get to a stage whereby you don't know why you're listening to all this. And that's the reason why when I plan for this English Dharma class, Dharma with streaming, I start with the basic preparation. First, Buddhism 101. After that, knowing the Buddha. Then steps in learning the Dharma. And then we will start with the teachings from the Buddha, which we will be discussed in next Saturday, the Four Noble Truths. So I hope to see all of you next Saturday night, and we will control our Dharma with streaming to discuss on the Four Noble Truths. Thank you very much.